Welcome back, Gundam guys and Gundam gals. Patrick Gade here from GGInfiniteNews.com. This time, we're bringing you a video review for the Revoltech Sci-Fi Series number 30, Optimus Prime. This is the Optimus Prime we see in the Dark of the Moon movie that recently came out. So let's take a look at the box and the figure itself. The box is a really nice format. It's a decent size, I don't know, about 8.5 by 8.5 square. The texture of the box is that of like a fancy magazine, I guess, like slick, but definitely has some weight to it, so it's pretty cool. The image of Optimus Prime here is nicely laid out, with him having a sword over the head, as well as a jumble of guns on his other hand here. So kind of a neat pose. Along the right edge, we see some information about the Revoltech revolver joint system that Revoltechs are famous for. On the opposite side, we just see some information about Optimus Prime here, and the sculpt was done by this gentleman. Don't want to mangle his name too bad, so I won't even try it. And again, this is number 30 in the Sci-Fi series. On the back here, we see some nice product shots and action poses. Here's just a at-attention stand up for Optimus Prime, showing off some details about the figure. We can combine the weapons to form a giant gun of some sort. We can also attach the weapons to his shoulders, it looks like, in either arm, forearm. And here's a repeat of the shot from the cover, or a different angle rather. Pretty nice action pose here of him kicking above his head. And a nice crouching shot as well. So the front of the box opens up with a Velcro tab holding it together. We see a lot of story information here on the inside flap, which unfortunately I can't read because I can't read Japanese. Oh well. As well as some movie or shots from the different movies here along the bottom. Got Optimus Prime there, looks like fighting in the woods from Revenge of the Fallen. Here's a weird shot of showing off the twins from Revenge of the Fallen as well. So it's kind of odd. But anyway, nice packaging, nice information, I assume. And then on the inside box here, we can see a window that shows off the figure and the packaging. So let's go and take a look at that real quick. Inside the packaging, we have a lot of stuff going on here. We have a plethora of cannons. Looks like there's five in total, as well as a single Cybertron blade. Have a little nameplate for Optimus Prime here. 4 additional manipulators, and the box that holds all the goodies that can fit inside. And of course, the Optimus Prime figure itself. So let's take a quick look at the weapons individually. Here's a first cannon. Nicely detailed, a single color, kind of a light gunmetal gray. Some nice detail molded into here, and some points to attach the additional weapons. And they're using a revolver joint as the handle for the weapon. I can understand why they do that, but it doesn't look as good as it should. I think it's kind of obvious that's a revolver joint there, and that doesn't really hide the fact very much. But oh well. Pretty nice looking weapon. The next cannon is pretty much the same thing, just a little different format. Some nice detail, simple color scheme, and of course on the revolver joint for the handle. Here's the third gun. Again, just more of the same. Looks like the smokestack from the truck mode, so that's kind of cool. Throwback to G1 days. And here's a large, simple cylinder cannon. Not much detail, but it's pretty big. And here's the final of the guns. It's kind of an odd-looking gun, but oh well. Here's a look at the single sword that we get. It's unfortunate we don't get 2 in the kit, because usually he's wielding 2. But that's not a big deal, I guess. And I wish it would have been the clear plastic for the orange rather than the painted orange, but that's okay. Looks nice. It's got a real small attachment joint here, so I wonder how well it's going to be able to pose, if it's going to cause any weight issues. We'll see how that works. And here's Optimus Prime's nameplate for his desk at work, so that's pretty cool. And here's a look at the sets of manipulators, the first set being an open hand kind of deal. Some nice detail molded into there. But again, it's kind of the squatter format, shorter and wider. But they look pretty cool. And there's where they plug into the revolver joint for the wrists. It's unfortunate they don't give you a revolver joint for each hand, rather you have to use the single set you get between each of the 3 sets. But that's not too big of a deal. The next set of manipulators are the closed fists that can hold the weapons. More of the same. Nice painted detail. And of course the plug in the back. And the last setup for the manipulators is the Clenched Fist that comes installed on the figure in the box. And of course we get the little goodie box here to hold all the extra bits that'll fit in here for storage. And here's a look at the figure itself outside of the packaging, and free from all the extra little plastic pieces they put in between each joint. So just be aware when you buy Revoltech for the first time, you'll see that each of the major joints have a little plastic baggie in between the joint and the pieces attached to, I guess to prevent scratching or keep the joint stiff during shipment. So anyway, here's a look at the figure. Really nicely detailed as far as the paint apps go. It's very accurate to the movie version, I believe. Nice, brilliant, kind of dark blue, a vibrant red, and some orange and blue flames with red and orange gradients along different areas. So very nicely painted. And sculpted too. I like the detail that's on the kit, on the figure. This all seems to be pretty movie accurate. Now, I've been a huge fan of Transformers for a long time. I grew up in the 80s watching the cartoons, buying the toys, as well as even seeing the original animated movie in the theater. And of course, crying when my hero Optimus Prime died. So I'm really attached to Optimus Prime as a character. And a lot of people who are fans of G1 don't like the movie designs. But I can appreciate the design for the movie figures as well. It's definitely not the image of the icon of Optimus Prime that I grew up with, but I like what they've done with it for the most part. So I think it works pretty well. And the advantage of having a non-transforming kit is that you get to see, you get a very accurate representation of how Optimus Prime is supposed to look. Now the problem with the Hasbro toys is they're awesome because they can transform back and forth, but you lose quality in each mode, having to, the quality of each mode has to suffer because, having to move back and forth between them. So I like having a non-transforming version of Optimus Prime a lot. So anyway, for articulation, starting at the feet, we have quite a bit of back and forth ankle movement. The front toes are on a revolver joint as well, so they can pose. A little bit of twisting action there, and not much rocking. It's more of just loose plastic there. But quite a bit of movement overall. The knee joints can bend quite a bit. They've done a pretty good job of concealing the revolver joints. The only place you really see them sticking out too bad are in the hip attachment areas and the elbows. But you can kind of forgive that because, it looks robotic, I guess, in a way. So again, you get plenty of hip movement. There's nothing to hinder his movement there. And the chest section, we have a uniquely placed revolver joint. It's kind of in a spinal column, and it goes back at an angle. So it's allows for a lot of movement, especially going backwards and forwards, and some twisting action. Although it kind of gives it a pose. Well, it's not too bad. I was thinking maybe it'd be off at an angle for the twists, but it's not so bad. The hands are on a tiny revolver joint, as I said before, and they can, or the wrist rather, and they can move around quite a bit. The elbows can bend that far. And the shoulder has a couple points of articulation here on the outside and also down inside the assembly there. So you have a couple different areas of motion that allows for some realistic giant robot movement there. And you can see the separation between the shoulder plates and the chest plates. Kind of a neat effect. The head is also on a double joint, one down in the body there and one in the upper neck. So no problems moving around there at all. So that's pretty much it for articulation. I'd say it's quite sufficient, and the joints hold it pretty well, hold the poses. So no big complaints there. And on the back you can see there's an attachment area for a Revoltech action base. And even though this kit doesn't come with one, you can borrow one from another one of your Revoltech figures. This is from the Jehudi. And it fits in there pretty tightly, so it can hold them just barely off the ground. And the one thing that's kind of weird about the plastic on this figure is it's kind of bouncy. It's hard to explain, but with the other Revoltechs that I'm familiar with, they seem pretty solid, but this plastic seems kind of hollow, and it feels soft, but it doesn't actually move. It's kind of a weird thing to describe. But you can see it's kind of springy. So it's kind of weird to me. Not as a bad thing, it's just different. I wasn't expecting that. As far as posing goes, actually on the ground, I think a couple things hinder the posing a little bit. One being the springiness of the plastic or the joints in general. It never feels very solid, and even though he has huge feet, it still seems kind of hard to get him in place. Maybe it's not too bad, I don't know. It's just kind of a weird feeling with the plastic. And we saw in the back he could kick above his head, and while I can get the feet in the right position, doesn't want to balance so good. But again, that's what the action base is for, so you can pull off some cool poses that way. So I seem to have rambled on too long to get all this to fit into one video, so stay tuned for part 2, where I'll take a look at combining the weapons together, how Prime can hold on to the weapons, as well as some opinions and final thoughts on the figure itself. So thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, of course, as well as videos for a review on the Revoltech number 31, the War Machine, and of course more Gundam reviews. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.